We're being joined by Mike Buckley, live from Sheffield, England. Mr. Buckley is a veteran journalist, political commentator and director of the Independent Commission on UK-EU Relations. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, sir.
Very good to be with you. How are you?
Good, sir. Sir, to begin with, lots to unpack here, but to begin with, what's your assessment of Rishi Sunak's tenure so far? What's your assessment of his policies and his priorities?
Well, Rishi Sunak came in, as you say, just about a year ago, and in theory, he was sold as, a return to sensible government, a return to some degree of competence and centre ground conservative politics after the disasters of the Boris Johnson government and the further disaster of Liz Truss, and indeed the chaos of Theresa May as well. And I think Rishi Sunak initially started to try to be that prime minister. If you remember, in the spring, he got a deal with the EU called the Windsor Framework that ended the animosity over the Northern Ireland Protocol and the wider Brexit agreement. And it looked like he may, have some ability to aim towards the centre ground. But since then, things have just got worse and worse. I mean, it seems that he's constantly giving in to the right of his party. Suella Braverman is the obvious example, with her obsession with trying to stop asylum seekers coming to the UK and failing miserably. And the rhetoric about that has become increasingly extreme, actually, which is unpleasant for a lot of people in this country, and of course very unpleasant for asylum seekers as well. But indeed, Rishi Sunak has completely failed to sell himself to the UK public. I think in part because he moved away from that initial statement of "I'm here to be a sensible, safe pair of hands." Instead, by reaching for the extremes, and then he's had a number of very bad rebrands. So he launched 5 supposed missions in the spring, none of which I don't think he's been able to pull off, or very few of them. And then at his recent party, he tried to rebrand as the change candidate, which, given the Conservatives have been in power for 13 years, is just ludicrous. So I think the public have just decided he's just not really up to the job.
Now, up to 25 Conservative MPs are prepared to put in their letters, as I mentioned, of no confidence. What does this mean for the party that's seen consecutive shifts in leadership and the wider political landscape?
Well, I mean, it just looks to an observer like they're just out of steam and out of power. And it looks, this happens to governments quite often. They simply run through all the talent that they have in their party, and they need a period in opposition to recover. And it looks like the Conservatives have reached that point. I mean, my question to those 25 Conservative MPs who put in letters of no confidence is, well, who do you want instead? Because it's not as if there's a wealth of talent in the Conservative cabinet or on the backbenchers that could take over and conceivably do a better job than Rishi Sunak and enhance their chances of winning the next general election. So I don't know who they would want. I would imagine if they're on the right of the party, they would want somebody like Suella Braverman or Kemi Badenoch, who are seen in large part in Britain as extremists, as far-right extremists, or certainly right-wing extremists. And they would have even less chance of doing well next year with the general election than Rishi Sunak would, in my view.
Mr. Buckley, thank you so much for joining us on the show with your insights on this.
Thank you.